In 864, Prince Trpimir died. Trpimir's successor was his son Zdeslav, who did not enjoy ruling for long because in the same year, i.e. in 864, he lost power to Domagoj. After these events, Zdeslav and his brothers were exiled and most likely went to Constantinople. Meanwhile, Domagoj, the new Croatian prince who started the new Domagojevich dynasty after taking power, still had to fight for Trpimir's legacy. Also during these years, Venetian ships were often attacked in the eastern Adriatic, which then contributed to bad relations with Venice. In recent years, under the rule of Pietro Tradonico, Venice began to play an increasingly important role on the Adriatic Sea and began to become more and more independent of the Byzantine Empire. In 864, Pietro Tradonico died and was succeeded by Orso Firm Participatio, who no longer wanted to be lenient towards the Croats, and broke the peace treaty with them that had been concluded between Mislav and Pietro in 839. Then Orso I attacked Croatia, which was still engaged in the struggle for Trpimir's legacy. Domagoj, who was still busy with the civil war, was unable to fight on two fronts, so in 865 he concluded an unfavorable peace with Venice. Another problem was the Arabs who attacked the Dalmatian coast in 866, and they were a serious threat because they had lands on the Italian peninsula. One of the attempts to get rid of the Arabs came in 868, when the Byzantines together with eastern France attacked the Arabs. The Byzantines initially won, but soon withdrew and began to blame eastern France for inaction. Then, at the beginning of 871, Domagoj, as a vassal of eastern France, set out with the Franks again against the Arabs and emerged victorious. Now, the Venetians became Domagoj's main enemy. In the meantime, Byzantium regained control over several cities in Dalmatia and the Narentines, and at this time, Venice renewed its attacks on Croatia. At that time, there were again attempts to overthrow Domagoj with the help of Byzantium, so Domagoj established a temporary peace with Venice and brutally got rid of the rebels. One of the conspirators, wanting to save his life, revealed the plot to Domagoj, but the adamant Domagoj also killed him. Now let's talk about the piety of our prince because it is quite an interesting topic. Domagoj, compared to his predecessors and successors, for example, did not build a church or make a pilgrimage to Cividale. Domagoj also did not attempt to spread the gospel or support the church in such activities. These events caused the church's influence to decline, which contributed to the fact that the Pope had to become more interested in Croatia and other countries such as Bulgaria or Great Moravia. The Pope in 874 or early 875 sent a letter to the Croatian clergy where the Pope condemned the death penalty imposed on the conspirators who were under the protection of the papal legate, and that the priest had nothing to do with the conspiracy and could continue his work. The Pope was also concerned about the issue of piracy. Domagoj was accused of attacking a ship that was carrying papal legates home from the 8th Catholic Ecumenical Council. The Pope in 874 asked Domagoj to take care of the pirates who were ravaging the Adriatic in his name, and that exiling the rebels would be a better option than killing them. Interestingly, the Pope in his letters referred to Domagoj as Prince Domagoj the Famous, but he will consider Domagoj guilty if he does not deal with the pirates. Domagoj was not convinced that he would be guilty or that the Pope called him famous and did not fulfill his request. At the end of his life, Domagoj tried to do something very ambitious. In 876, Louis the German died, and his eldest son Carloman of Bavaria succeeded him. Seeing the opportunity, Domagoj decided to start a rebellion and free Croatia from the influence of the Franks. The Croatian armies moved towards the Kingdom of Bavaria, where they razed several towns to the ground. These actions resulted in the end of the temporary peace with Venice, and Domagoj's fleet attacked the Venetian fleet in the Gulf of Piran. The Croatian army intended to attack the city of Grado, but unfortunately the Venetian fleet defeated them. This war freed Croatia from Frankish rule with Byzantine assistance. Shortly after this, our ambitious Prince Domagoj dies in the same year, i.e. in 876. After the death of Domagoj, the Venetian chronicles called him the worst prince of the Slavs. Domagoj was succeeded by his son, whose name is unknown to us, but in the past, the name Iliko was taken. Domagoj's son did not stay on the throne for too long, because 2 years later, in 878, Trupimir's son Zdeslav returned to Croatia, who, with the help of Byzantium, became prince again and restored the Trpimirović dynasty to the Croatian throne. During Zdeslav's renewed rule, Croatia began to fall more and more into the Byzantine sphere of influence, and he most likely recognized the authority of the Byzantine Emperor Basil I and restored peace with Venice. However, Zdeslav was unlucky in life, and shortly after regaining power, he died from arrows in 879 near Knin during the uprising of Branimir, who was a relative of Domagoj, and they most likely belonged to the same dynasty. Interestingly, it was most likely Pope John VIII himself who triggered Branimir's rebellion because he was afraid of the growing influence of Byzantium. Branimir then became the new Croatian prince, and during his reign, Croatia entered the first real peak of its power, but more on that in the next episode. In your opinion, was Domagoj a good ruler or not? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, I hope you liked it. Leave a like and subscribe, and see you soon.